figures. And as well as that, could be some mist and fog around, forming where we've got those clear skies, at least initially, through parts of Scotland. Still the cloud thick enough for some drizzly showers over Lincolnshire, down across East Anglia and in towards Kent. As I said, further west, some breaks in the clouds, some sunny spells for West Wales. And a bit like today, much of Scotland should see some sunshine during Tuesday. Could be a bit foggy to start with, and parts of the northeast, particularly close to the coast, may stay a little grey throughout. It may take a while for the mist and fog to clear, but it should be disappearing through the morning to reveal some sunny spells through central, western Scotland. Wales and southwest England, some breaks in the cloud likely here, but it's going to stay fairly grey, I suspect, over the Midlands and much of eastern England, and still at times just a bit of drizzle falling out of that thick cloud. Temperature-wise, well, about average for the time of year, maybe only 11 or 12 across parts of Scotland, but some sunshine does make a big difference to the feel of the day. Spot the difference for Wednesday. There's not a lot of it, maybe a few more showers coming in across the Northern Isles, still a bit of a breeze across Kent and Norfolk and Suffolk, with the odd little bit of drizzly rain, but most places just dry and cloudy, and that is likely to continue for the rest of the working week. If anything, just turning a shade chillier.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M4 westbound, traffic is congested between junctions 24 and 26 near Malpas. In Derbyshire, the A38 southbound between the A50 and A5132 junction is congested, with delays expected to improve tonight. Lane closures persist on the A303 westbound between junctions A3088 and A356 due to a vehicle fire, causing an additional 15 minutes delay. And on the trains, South Western Railway reports major disruption to and from London Waterloo, with further delays between Salisbury and Westbury on the Great Western Railway. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good evening to you. Welcome to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's show.
Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better.
US President Donald Trump has achieved the seemingly impossible: peace in the Middle East. Hostages are home, the living ones, and the war is over. But has this left the UK looking rather foolish and, dare I say, impotent on the world stage? And meanwhile...
And then I see flags painted on roundabouts, and that is just a bit weird.
An outspoken Labour MP for Loughborough has faced ridicule worldwide by Republicans in the US after claiming that British flags make people feel uneasy and excluded. Plus, there's this.
Farage, as Farage said, Nigel Farage.
These are Farage boats.
Nigel Farage.
We've got to call out Farage and his cronies.
Yes, as the budget of doom looms never nearer in November, the government is gearing up to blame Nigel Farage and Brexit for the incoming £30 billion of tax hikes. What's next? Meteor strikes Earth, Nigel Farage to blame. That's all to come. But first, here's your headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good evening to you. Just coming up to 2 minutes past 7. Donald Trump has declared the historic dawn of a new Middle East after signing his long-awaited Gaza peace deal today.
It took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up.
Well, speaking in Israel this morning before that signing, the US president said the agreement would mark a turning point for the world.
And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
The deal brings an end to more than 2 years of war, with Israel confirming the final 20 living hostages held by Hamas are now home. In exchange, almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners have been released, but the agreement has already come under strain. Hamas handing over the coffins of just 4 dead hostages today, telling mediators it doesn't know the location of some other bodies. Israel's defence minister says that breaches Trump's plan, which required all hostages, alive or dead, to be returned within 72 hours. Well, 20 world leaders, including Sir Keir Starmer, have gathered in Sharm el-Sheikh tonight for the signing ceremony of that peace deal. Britain expected to announce a £20 million aid package for Gaza as part of wider efforts to secure long-term peace. Moments ago, after that summit, the Prime Minister praised Donald Trump for helping to secure the deal, calling it a truly historic day, but warned there is still a long way to go before lasting peace is achieved.
The challenge now is tomorrow, an implementation, and therefore, yes, today is historic, but what happens tomorrow really matters. And that's why what I've been discussing with leaders all day is what part can we play? And we, the United Kingdom in particular, I think, can play a part in monitoring the ceasefire, but also decommissioning the capability of Hamas and their weaponry, drawing on our experience in Northern Ireland. So the question today has already moved to how do we implement, how do we make sure this moves forward? And it's really important that we keep that focus. We mustn't have any missteps now.
It comes as America's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, praised Britain's incredible role in brokering the ceasefire. But not everyone was impressed. America's ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, dismissed the UK's involvement, calling it delusional. Here, meanwhile, leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, reacted to that news.
Not born yesterday. I think it is actually very sad that the government is having to beg people to send tweets to say something nice about Jonathan Powell. The American ambassador to Israel has actually criticized the government, saying they are delusional for saying that they had anything to do with this peace deal. I think that that is quite tragic, the way that the UK's reputation is falling under this Labour government.
Away from news in the Middle East tonight, the government's denying reports that Downing Street advisers intervened in the collapse of the Chinese spy trial, calling them completely false. It's National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell, they say, was only involved in routine discussions. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch is now pressing the Prime Minister to address what she calls unanswered questions about the case. She's written to Sir Keir Starmer demanding he or a senior minister appear before MPs urgently. Parliament will gather with the Conservatives calling for what they describe as clarity and honesty from Number 10. A landmark trial has opened at the High Court in London, accusing 5 major car makers of cheating emissions tests in what's being called the UK's biggest ever class action. Mercedes, Ford, Peugeot, Renault and Nissan are all accused of using illegal software to make their cars appear less polluting under test conditions. Lawyers for more than 200,000 drivers claim the industry chose to cheat rather than comply with the law, saying excess diesel emissions caused 124,000 premature deaths across Europe. The car makers deny any wrongdoing, calling the claims scientifically illiterate. And Rachel Reeves is being warned to avoid half-baked fixes for the economy ahead of her autumn budget. A new report from the Institute for Fiscal Studies says the Chancellor could raise tens of billions of pounds through tax reform without breaking Labour's manifesto pledges. But it warns against simply hiking tax rates, calling the current system unfair and inefficient. The IFS also says restricting pension tax relief or introducing a wealth tax would risk penalising savers. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in around an hour's time. Now though, it's over to Martin.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host tonight, Martin Daubry. Now, Donald Trump has done what he said he would do. He's achieved, at long last, the seemingly impossible, peace in the Middle East.
And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
After 2 years and 6 days, the war in Gaza is well and truly over.
It's over. The war is over, okay? Do you understand that?
And of course, the hostages, after 738 unimaginable days, they've returned home.
After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time.
Of course, the president was doubted at every turn, but he has proved those doubters wrong, many of whom still find thank you the hardest phrase to say. I'm joined now in the studio by Joshua Trevino, the Senior Fellow at the America First Policy Institute, as well as GB News' Senior Political Commentator, Nigel Nelson. Joshua, I shall start with you. As an American citizen, can you put into words the pride you must be feeling today?
Absolutely. Look, this is what the American majority voted for Trump to do, to advance an agenda of peace, to break with stale orthodoxies that brought nothing but more war. And he did it. I think there's nothing that illustrates his willingness to be heterodox and to achieve his ends more than the fact that the United States alone, among the Anglosphere powers, did not reward Hamas terrorism with the recognition of a Palestinian state. That American difference made the difference in peace today.
At that point, let's bring in Sir Keir Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer has been criticised domestically and certainly internationally for that recognition of the state of Palestine right at the end game of this process where everybody kind of knew this was winding down. Can we get your thoughts, please, on what many people believe has been a betrayal of Israel?
Well, look, I won't comment on the UK-Israel relationship, but I will comment on the US-UK relationship. The United States requires a strong Britain. The United States requires a Britain that holds fast to its values, to the core principles of Western civilization.
And have we done that?
No, absolutely not. And certainly not under the current government, the current regime, and Prime Minister Starmer and the decision of his government to reward Hamas terrorism with a recognition of a farcical Palestinian state that does not exist was a breach in the concord that should exist between the United States and Great Britain.
Got a quick clip here earlier on. Keir Starmer, I believe, was asked if Donald Trump should win the next Nobel Peace Prize. Let's take a listen.
Well, today is a really historic day, so we do need to start there, and real credit to President Trump and the other leaders who got us to this place. But you're absolutely right. The challenge now is tomorrow and implementation, and therefore, yes, today is historic, but what happens tomorrow really matters. And that's why what I've been discussing with leaders all day is what part can we play? And we, the United Kingdom in particular, I think, can play a part in monitoring the ceasefire, but also decommissioning the capability of Hamas and their weaponry.
Joshua Trevino, again, it was said over the weekend by Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, the United Kingdom played a key role behind the scenes in shaping this deal. Sir Keir Starmer there sticking to that script. Do you think that's the case, or was the United Kingdom basically spare parts at a wedding?
No, I don't think the United Kingdom played a key role. Look, Steve Witkoff on the American side has said very generous things, as he ought to, about our British ally. But I think anybody who has been familiar with this process knows what the end game has looked like, has understood very clearly that the Starmer regime right now has, if anything, been counterproductive toward peace. This peace was achieved despite British diplomacy and efforts. And it's unfortunate to have to say that as somebody who values the US-UK relationship.
What about all other leaders who were there today as well? Of course, Emmanuel Macron, the leaders, the European Union, Australia. Do you feel that what's happened today is a new beginning in many senses of the emergence, Joshua, of the United States as the true leader of the global superpower of the West, and the liberal West has simply abandoned their core mission of supporting the United States and helping out a key ally in Israel?
I think the United States, and look, as an American, I'm biased, but I do think the United States, certainly in the past century, has been the indispensable nation for liberty around the world. That has been true in generations past. It's true now, and I would encourage our European friends, who ought to share in that mission, to take a step back and reflect on what's happened today. When you look at Macron, when you look at any of the European powers, all of this happened. This peace has been achieved despite their efforts, in contravention to what they urged the Israelis to do, in contravention to what they urged the Palestinians to do. And that should give them pause. I don't think it will, but there's always hope for change.
The clip we were trying to show you there was where Sir Keir Starmer was asked, will you be nominating Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize? The Premier of Pakistan said tonight he would. Earlier on today, Benjamin Netanyahu said, you didn't win it this year, but certainly you should next. Sir Keir Starmer said, well, there will be many candidates. Wouldn't even pin his colour to the mast at this stage. I think that's a disgrace. What about you?
I tend to agree, but it is also entirely to be expected from the current UK political leadership.
Why?
Well, look, they're not true nationalists. My impression from across the pond, as it were, is that the UK regime right now does not advocate for the interests of the United Kingdom as a nation. They perceive themselves as part of a globalist class. They're internationalists, and they advocate for that class rather than the people of their nation. It's a problem across the world. It's a problem in the United States. It's a problem definitely in Europe. And so the answer that the Prime Minister gave is entirely consonant with the views of that class. I think if you had a real patriot in charge, though, he would say something different.
Thank you very much, Nigel Nelson. Let's bring you in now. Thank you seems to be the hardest phrase for so many people on the Liberal left to say. Peace has been achieved. You're no mega fan of Donald Trump, but do you think you want to say thank you to the President?
Yes, I would. I'd be happy to say thank you to him. I think that it was an absolutely fantastic achievement. It wouldn't have happened without him, so I've got no hesitation in praising him for what he did. I would take issue with Joshua about recognising Palestine as a state. I don't think it either helped or harmed this particular process. What I do think it might do is help the next stage.
How did it help?
Well, it'll help the next stage was part of Donald Trump's 20-point plan.
Hamas was celebrating.
Well, part of Trump's 20-point plan is to get statehood for Palestine. That's what we've done, and it's not a huge step. We've already had a long-term policy of a two-state solution for the Middle East. Recognising the other state was not such a huge leap. So, as I say, I don't think it made a huge difference to what happened today.
Do you think Britain's status on the global stage is simply withering away?
No.
at the moment. I mean, let's be resolute.
We're not America. I mean, there is no doubt.
Be a true ally of America and stand by their principles and support Israel. Instead, they backed the state of Palestine. Hamas round the streets with glee.
No, I don't think that recognising Palestine is backing Palestine against Israel. It's not a question of that. It's a question of trying to get a fair solution to what's been happening in the Middle East for the last 40 years.
There's a two-horse race. Sir Keir Starmer back the losing horse.
No, it shouldn't be, you shouldn't think of it as a two-horse race. That at some point, I mean, it's going to be. I think we're a long way away from it. But at some point, Palestine and Israel, as separate states, have to live alongside each other.
Joshua, final word to you. We can have semantics all we like. When push comes to shove, do you think Americans will remember in this hour of need that the United Kingdom chose to back Palestine, and many people who don't have the political nuance or subtlety, they will think that that was a backing for Hamas.
Here's the tragedy of it. Those who think about it to that level of discreteness will, but most won't think of the United Kingdom at all and remember it. And it's because of the irrelevance that has been chosen by this regime.
That's withering, but do you know what? I think a lot of people listening will concur with that. Joshua Trevino, Senior Fellow at the America First Policy Institute, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
On this momentous day. Now, with the 20 hostages freed with today's landmark peace deal, it's important to remember that many of them did not make it. Tashi Yadan was among them, who was taken by Hamas on the 7th of October after they tragically murdered his daughter. Well, Tashi's body was released back to Israel back in February. I'm now joined by his cousin, Adam Mannett. Adam, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company on this incredibly difficult day. May I get your reflections today? 20 survivors have been released today, and the scenes we saw with their relatives greeting them back were truly astonishing.
I still can't believe it. It's been 2 years. We've been fighting vociferously for the hostages since they were taken on October 7th. We've been shouting from the rooftops, dreaming of this day, and to finally see it happen, and especially in one go, rather than the drabs of the previous staged releases that Hamas sadistically ran last time they did the release of hostages. No fanfare, just a quick, speedy transfer of all of the 20 remaining alive hostages is the best possible outcome we could have hoped for them. Obviously, there's still the issue of the dead, and they were supposed to have released all 28 dead hostages today. We didn't see that, so worrying time for those families.
Incredible images there. We can see people emaciated, ghost-like. Of course, they would have been captured underground, perhaps, for all that time. But they made it. They're free. And yet today we've seen almost a breakdown in the promise of Hamas. They said they would release all 28 of those dead bodies. And so far we only have 2, we believe, with the possibility of an additional 2. Some people are saying Hamas have betrayed their deal already, and as a consequence, Israel should halt the release of any further prisoners. What say you?
Well, we have to have some kind of leverage to secure the remaining hostages to be released. I don't have any better solutions to you. Look, we knew that they were signaling in advance that they weren't going to have all of the hostages' bodies. They were pretending that it was a really difficult prospect, that they had to find them, that they had to search through rubble. And so we made allowances for the possibility that maybe a few of the hostages wouldn't be returned on this day. But for 4 bodies out of the 28 to be returned is a betrayal of the agreement, and there needs to be some repercussions.
May I ask you, Adam, we speak a lot tangentially as commentators about the importance of getting remains back, even when the hostage is deceased. Talking from your own personal experience, tell us how vital it is to have that closure.
Everyone's going to have different views about it, but in Judaism, the remains are very sacred. They need to be buried, ideally in Eretz Yisrael, in the soil of their homeland, as soon as humanly possible. And so there's a kind of religious and spiritual element to it, but also just for the families, many of whom will just want to be able to know that their loved one's bodies is in a safe place, that it's not been defiled, that it's intact, that they can kind of put them in a sanctuary, a place of peace and reflection, a cemetery next to perhaps other loved ones. Like with my cousin Tsahi, we buried him next to his firstborn daughter Mayan, who was murdered on October 7th. She was just 18 years old. She had just celebrated her 18th birthday only 4 days earlier. The terrorists came in, they murdered her. He had to watch her die. Then he was taken hostage, held in captivity and murdered in captivity. So reuniting them actually was a deeply moving, horrific, sorrowful day for us, but nevertheless a beginning of some semblance of closure for our family and the beginning of a grieving process.
Thank you so much for joining us today on this historic day and sharing your very, very poignant and moving tale. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Coming up in just a moment, we'll be looking at the near diplomatic row that's unfolded when the Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson tried to claim that the UK played an essential role in the Trump-Gaza peace deal. That's next.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host tonight, Martin Dorby. Now, continuing our coverage of today's landmark peace deal, I'm delighted to say I'm now joined by our Bev Turner, of course, the host of The Late Show Live. Bev, you broke the news first. You broke it early. Astonishing news. Zelensky could be at the White House on Friday. Could be two wars in 1 week.
That's right, Martin. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? It would be very typical of President Trump to try and get such a slam dunk in 1 week. And his critics will be queuing up to say this is all about him. He loves to bask in the glory. Well, who would blame him at the end of 24 hours like we've just seen? Regardless of how you feel about the Middle East, and I know that a lot of our audience roll their eyes, 2 words guaranteed to make them switch off: Middle and East, because it doesn't feel relevant to them. Well, on a day like today, Martin, it is relevant to each and every one of us. On the Late Show Live tonight, I'm going to be talking about why I think this is a great day for Great Britain as well, and what a week it will be if Trump ends the week out by also finishing the conflict in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. I don't know any other details yet about this meeting that's going to happen on Friday. I will be sharpening my elbows and doing everything I can to be in the room when that meeting is going forward, because of course that will also have implications for the British people, for the price of our oil, for the price of our petrol, for inflation, for immigration, all of the events which are happening here that I am incredibly privileged and blessed by GB News to be here observing up close on behalf of our audience. All of these events are having an impact on the UK. And today has been, make no bones about it, one of the most remarkable days in politics that I've ever seen. It is a terrible day for people who have Trump derangement syndrome, who don't like President Trump. They don't quite know what to do here in Washington today. And believe me, there's a lot of people in Washington who do not like the president. Within the White House, of course, his administration are riding incredibly high. As we speak, they are literally riding high because he's just got on Air Force One. He's left a little later than was planned, which means that his arrival here in DC may be a little delayed, but they're very good at putting their foot on the gas on Air Force One and making up for lost time. So the chances are that the president will be landing back at the White House or back in DC and then arriving back at the White House during my show tonight between midnight and 2 a.m. I'm hoping to get the live pictures of his arrival back. We're just looking on screen there. That's Monica Crowley, one of his chief advisors. That's the blonde lady there who was actually there handing him the peace deal when it was signed earlier on today. So it's been really genuinely, Martin, a remarkable day. And I've had so many messages from people saying how impressed they've been with GB News' coverage as well, and drawing a comparison to what they're calling terrorist apologists on other channels compared to GB News, who've offered a very balanced and a very powerful take on events that have happened today. We've seen, obviously, Keir Starmer go and try to appear impressive on a global stage, failing, frankly, in my opinion, for a man who's got more air miles than Judith Chalmers. Whenever he does get on those global stages, he doesn't seem to make a particularly big impact. And bear in mind our history in this area as a country. We should have been front and centre with these negotiations. That has slipped out of our hands under this government, and frankly also the previous government as well. We are nowhere to be seen really now. What remains is where we will play a role going forward from this point onwards. But obviously we've had the Qataris, we've had the Egyptians, we've had the Turkish mediators. They sat down with the foremost senior leaders of Hamas on Wednesday with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and we found ourselves here on this remarkable occasion. We'll be bringing you as much as we can from DC from midnight tonight, of course. Don't miss it.
Bev stuff. It's going to be big. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be Bev Turner on The Late Show Live from midnight here on GB News. Superb stuff. Thank you, Bev. And back to the studio for more analysis. I'm joined by James D. Boyes, the Senior Research Fellow at the UCL Centre on US Politics, as well as GB News' Senior Political Commentator Nigel Nelson. James, let's bring you in. Let's talk about Zelensky here, if we can. On a day of huge political surprises, there's one more in the pipeline.
Indeed, and who would have thought after that tumultuous press conference earlier in the year when Zelensky was famously expelled from the White House that he would be back, not once but twice now, going to meet with the president. It's not only remarkable that this is coming in the aftermath of today's historic events, but of course, if you remember what happened last week when the Chinese threatened to withhold, greatly expand problems getting access to the rare earth minerals that President Trump has put such a premium on. The deal that he's got with Zelensky, I think, makes even more sense, 100%. And we're going to come that through today.
You're exactly right, because of course there was a tariff threat. Close of play Friday saw the stock markets tumble because rare earth metals are integral to the expansion of American industry, particularly AI. And you're absolutely right. Securing that deal with rare earth metals in Ukraine could unlock the whole thing.
You're not wrong. For the last 5 years, I've been researching Donald Trump and his use of what's called the madman theory, this idea of peace through strength, threatening extreme retaliatory measures. And I think what you're seeing both today, the meeting with Zelensky, and in other matters, the dealings with Chinese, you're seeing that borne out, I think, on every step he can possibly take.
Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in again. I said to you before, thank you seems to be the hardest word for the opponents of Donald Trump to say. You said thank you for the Middle East, but to be on a roll and to get the Ukraine war in the bag as well, surely even the fiercest critics of Donald Trump would have to say, wow, this guy's done more for world peace in a week than the previous regimes did
If
in
he can bring an end to the Ukraine war, absolutely. There's no question about that. Obviously, we don't know what this meeting with Zelensky is about in the White House. One hopes there's progress, but really the key to this is Donald Trump's relationship with Putin. And so what we need is Putin to come on side and actually show some indication he really wants to end this war. So far, that's not happened. The meeting that Donald Trump had with him in Alaska didn't seem to come to anything. Maybe there's something in the pipeline with Putin that we don't know about. Let's hope there is.
James, the point now, surely, is that we see now a new alliance, the entire Middle East, friends and foes, Arab states, Muslim states, Israel, the United States coming together. And Donald Trump mentioned himself earlier in Jerusalem, Russia, Ukraine, that's next. That's the big one. With all the jigsaw pieces in place across the Middle East, Putin's hand is severely weakened.
Yeah, I think it is. And the piece you ran a little bit earlier on talked about the idea of the United States re-emerging, quite frankly, as a global leader. I think for far too long that position has been under threat. And who would have thought, quite frankly, that Donald Trump, of all people, would be the person to do that? It's also important that he's going to be able to leverage this international surge at home domestically, because, of course, at the moment, the government is shut down. The Democrats are playing hardball. And he's going to be able to leverage that, I think, to great domestic advantage come the midterms later next year.
And the point surely being that Vladimir Putin, if he wants to disrupt peace elsewhere, is running out of allies. Iran, more or less withering away before our eyes. Putin surely has to play ball soon. Nobody on the world stage supports him anymore.
Well, I agree. And again, you're seeing, I think, the result of Donald Trump's hardball approach to politics being played out across the world. He's threatened retaliatory strikes. He's delivered upon them. So people realise he's someone who has to be taken at his word.
Nigel Nelson, I want to put the question to you that was put to Keir Starmer, which he refused to answer. He was asked, do you think Donald Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize? He said, well, there are many other candidates out there. Nigel Nelson, should Donald Trump win the Nobel Peace Prize?
I think he should certainly go forward for it for next year. Yes, absolutely.
Yes or no? Not go forward.
It's not a yes or no, because we're on day one of a ceasefire. We're not on day one of the end of the struggle in the Middle East. We've got months to go, so we'll have to see how things play out. But yes, on the basis of what's happened today, certainly Donald Trump would be a front runner for next year's Nobel Prize.
Nigel Nelson, you're coming around to some common sense. You've been hanging around GB News way too long. Nigel Nelson, superb as ever, and James D. Boyce, thanks for your expertise. Much, much appreciated. Now, coming up in just a moment's time, you'll not want to miss this.
And then I see flags painted on roundabouts, and that is just a bit weird.
Yes, a Labour Party MP has claimed that British flags make people feel uneasy and weird. But we'll be revealing why he may well grow to regret those marks. Guess what? He might lose his seat to a certain resurgent party. That's next.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather outlook from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. It's been a largely dry day. Some places started with a bit of drizzle, but the largely dry weather will continue for the next few days, as will the fairly cloudy skies, because this chunky area of high pressure is sitting right over us, and it means the weather's not really shifting too far. There's quite a lot of cloud trapped under that area of high pressure. Thick enough for some drizzle here and there to continue, particularly over the Midlands, parts of eastern England, but otherwise It's a dry night. West Wales, parts of Scotland, especially again in the west, should keep some clear skies. And where skies do stay clear for longest, well, temperatures will dip well down into single figures. And as well as that, could be some mist and fog around, forming where we've got those clear skies, at least initially, through parts of Scotland. Still the cloud thick enough for some drizzly showers over Lincolnshire, down across East Anglia and in towards Kent. As I said, further west, some breaks in the clouds, some sunny spells for West Wales. And a bit like today, much of Scotland should see some sunshine during Tuesday. Could be a bit foggy to start with, and parts of the northeast, particularly close to the coast, may stay a little grey throughout. It may take a while for the mist and fog to clear, but it should be disappearing through the morning to reveal some sunny spells through central, western Scotland. Wales and southwest England, some breaks in the cloud likely here, but it's going to stay fairly grey, I suspect, over the Midlands and much of eastern England, and still at times just a bit of drizzle falling out of that thick cloud. Temperature-wise, well, about average for the time of year, maybe only 11 or 12 across parts of Scotland, but some sunshine does make a big difference to the feel of the day. Spot the difference for Wednesday. There's not a lot of it, maybe a few more showers coming in across the Northern Isles, still a bit of a breeze across Kent and Norfolk and Suffolk with the odd little bit of drizzly rain, but most places just dry and cloudy, and that is likely to continue for the rest of the working week. If anything, just turning a shade chillier.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, here was the shocking moment. An outspoken Labour MP claimed British flags make people feel uneasy and excluded.
And then I see flags painted on roundabouts, and that is just a bit weird. And you know, because you've seen it online and I see it in my inbox, that this does make people feel uneasy. And they ask, what message are these flags supposed to be sending? Now look, I'll take people at their words. People who say this is about national pride. I'm proud of my country too, and I'm proud of our flag. But I do understand why others feel that it's about excluding people. Why others feel that it's about saying who belongs here and who doesn't.
Well, once again, it's the case of a Labour politician embarrassing this country on the world stage. Yes, it wasn't long before the US Senator and the former Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz chimed in, saying this: "Utterly tragic, a great nation with so many eager to surrender it entirely." Well, Mr. Sander might be wise to keep an eye on the local polls, because look at this. He's on track to lose his seat to Reform UK, according to the latest predictions. So all of his comments about flags might come back to bite him on the flagpole. I'm joined now by GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Nigel, once again, they cannot help themselves. They should just admit it. They're embarrassed and ashamed of our flag. Why?
Well, I'm not sure he was actually saying that. He was saying that people feel uncomfortable in his particular area.
Who?
Now, well, if his constituents have come to him and said, look, we think those flags mean that you don't like migrants or something like that, then you can understand them feeling uncomfortable. We've had people in this studio, you and I, who've talked about putting up flags, and they've talked about about unity, about the pride in about pride in Britain, and I accept all that. If that's what the flags are about, that's great. What the MP also said was that they should be taken down if they posed a danger. Well, that's just plain common sense. Look, I've seen flags hanging from motorway bridges.
That's on a lamppost, that one there he's on about.
Yeah, and if you take the motorway bridge, if that fell on a car, that would cause a problem.
But it didn't. No, it wasn't. It was a lamppost.
The flag was on the lamppost. The lamppost there, I'm perfectly happy to see flags on lampposts. All the lampposts where I live have got St George's flags on them. The decision by the parish council, the district council and our village association is leave them be. They don't cause any problem. But, I mean, you are committing an offence. If you stick a flag up on a lamppost without permission, that is an offence, because you haven't got permission from the local authority to put the flags up. I think it's right to
What about when the Ukrainian flags went up all those years ago? You couldn't move for them. They're all over the shop. They never got taken down. What about all the Palestinian flags that were put up all over the shop? They weren't taken down by councils. In fact, in Tower Hamlets, they're up for 2 blooming years.
I've just said I'm not suggesting the flags are taken down. I'm perfectly happy to have them all over my village. What I am saying is that technically it is a breach of the law to stick a flag on a local authority lamppost.
I asked you this question time and time again. Why is it the left that have a problem with our flags? Javine Sander there saying it's a bit weird. People feel uneasy. No, they don't. And if they do, tough. This is the United Kingdom. Grow to cherish and love our flag. If you're truly ambitious about integration, learn to appreciate our flag and stop feeling weird about it.
Yeah, and where the discomfort comes in, it depends on the motive of the people who put them there. The flag started...
Yeah, but that's in the eye of those who choose to interpret it. Javine Sander has chosen to interpret it as weird and queasy.
In which case, then, that
the people who put them up don't mean that.
You can understand why people feel uncomfortable. The flags went up at around about the same time. The flags were turning up outside migrant hotels. So there appeared to be...
Why is that, do you think?
Because there was a link between the two. I don't think it was suddenly...
But why were people putting flags up, not just outside hotels, but across the nation? Because they feel our nation is going down the causey.
They appeared at the same time as people were launching protests outside hotels. So it looked as if this was a link with migration, and the flags were saying...
But it was a link with migration. It was.
Migrants are welcome.
No, it was a link with migration. It was a link saying there's too much of it. It's uncontrolled, nobody's speaking about it, and by the way, it's endangering communities, and every time you mention it, you're called far-right, a racist or a fascist. That's the point. And it's interpreted in that way by MPs like Javine Sander, by people from the left, who I think are completely and utterly misreading the nation, as the polling shows there in this MP seat. He's set to lose his seat to Reform at present, and I warrant you, the vast majority in Loughborough don't agree with him.
Well, maybe not, but he's obviously got constituents who are uncomfortable for all the reasons that you've just outlined. If you were in this country as a migrant, a legal migrant, you might be uncomfortable with the fact there's a link between the flags and migration. What I'm saying is that leave the flags up as long as they're not causing a danger. I'm perfectly happy with them, and we've met people in this studio who said it's about unity. It's about unifying Britain. Great.
You're right. That's Elliot and Ryan from Raise the Colours. Thank you very much indeed, Nigel Nelson. You like Donald Trump, you like flags. Wow, something's in your tea. Thank you very much, Nigel. Next is the budget look ahead, and you can expect even more of this.
Farage, as Farage said, Nigel Farage.
These are Farage boats.
Nigel Farage.
We've got to call out Farage.
Yes, the budget is incoming in November, and the government is expected to blame its tax rises on, yes, you guessed it, Nigel Farage and Brexit. What next? Comet hits Earth, Brexit to blame. That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're off to the central Mediterranean in the next few days, then do prepare for some heavy showers and potentially some thunderstorms, which could bring some flooding in places. Relatively fine for the next few days, though, for Canary Islands, although there will be some rain from Madeira by the middle part of the week. Mostly dry across Siberia, but the Balearic Islands, Sardinia, parts of Corsica and Sicily will see some heavy showers and thunderstorms. And whilst there'll be 1 or 2 showers for the eastern Med as well, most places here dry and sunny, but an increasing chance of showers later in the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dordme. Well, that fateful day on the 26th of November when the Chancellor Rachel Reeves will announce that punishing budget is fast approaching, and you are sure to expect much, much more of this.
Farage, as Farage said, Nigel Farage. These are Farage boats.
Nigel Farage. We've got to call out Farage and his cronies.
Well, after Trump derangement syndrome, is this Farage derangement syndrome? Because you guessed it, having made the entire Labour Party conference about Nigel Farage, the government is now expected to make the entire budget about Nigel Farage too. Shockingly, the government's expected to blame Brexit for the £30 billion of tax rises it is set to implement. Well, I'm joined now by GB News presenter and the former Conservative Cabinet Minister, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, and of course I'm still joined by GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Sir Jacob, of course, State of the Nation is up next, but I wanted to get you in as a Brexit heavyweight to say, seriously, have they completely and utterly lost the plot? First, they blamed the Tories for the £20 billion black hole. Everyone saw through that. Then they blamed Nigel Farage for the so-called Farage boats, even though Sir Keir Starmer is in power. Now we're expecting stinging tax rises, and of course, they're going to blame Nigel Farage. Have they lost the plot?
Well, let's take it in turn. Let's take the boats. The Remainers argue that under the Dublin Agreement, we could send people back to France. It is true there was the Dublin Agreement. The Dublin Agreement also meant we took people in return. When it was operational, we sent back about 400 people and we took in over 1,000. So the Dublin Agreement meant we took more people in than we sent back. Argument number one fails. Argument two, the 30 billion black hole. OK, let's say that's because the economy has performed differently outside the European Union. That's not true, because we've actually done better than Germany, and we've done almost exactly the same as France. So unless you assume that we would have massively outperformed our two biggest European neighbours, there's no argument saying 30 billion comes from Brexit. But it's better or worse than that, depending on your view. If we were still in the European Union, we would have our share for the 800 billion euro debt bailout agreed for COVID. That's 78 billion pounds, or just shy of 3% of GDP. So our debt to GDP goes up by 3%, takes us well over 100%, plus the annual contributions. Own resources, customs duty and plastics tax, £5.4 billion a year that the Treasury would not be receiving, plus our annual contributions, which after the latest increases would be about £20 billion. So not only we would have a £30 billion black hole, if we were still in the European Union, it would be a £55 billion black hole, and we would have a 3% extra on our debt. So the numbers are just nonsense. It's utterly dishonest, and anyone who's looked at it will know the figures I've just given you are accurate.
Nigel Nelson, a comprehensive case against there, and surely it just won't wash anymore to completely blame everybody and anybody else for your own failings. Why not just look in the mirror and admit we screwed things up here?
Well, we haven't. Some stuff has been screwed up. You're right. We've had in the middle of Brexit. We've had COVID. We've had global supply chains are being disrupted. We've had an energy crisis and the war in Ukraine and Russia. So an awful lot has come into the middle of all this.
Yeah, despite all of that, Sir Keir Starmer's going to blame Brexit.
Well, we don't know that. In fact, what we do know is that Wes Street, in the Health Secretary, said that Brexit is in part to blame for the state we're in at the moment. And that's about right, that Jacob quoted a whole load of figures, and you can keep quoting figures on either side. At the end of the day, what I wrote when Brexit happened was that it wouldn't be a disaster, but we would be a little bit worse off. And I think the little bit is about right. So things like food prices, they went up 25% for other reasons. So they would have gone up anyway, with or without Brexit, but 7% of that was to do with Brexit. Firms that traded with Europe suffered hugely thanks to Brexit. Other firms have done well because we have deals with America and with India.
Put the minutiae to one side. In terms of this political blame game, the elections are decided in the Red Wall. Sir Keir Starmer is losing the Red Wall quicker than he's going off. His approval ratings is going off the white cliffs of Dover. The Red Wall will see through this as a fantasy, as a deflection, as nonsense.
Well, what I'm talking about here is the reality of it. What has happened is we are slightly worse off because of Brexit. An ordinary person is slightly worse off. The difference is...
How long can this go on for?
Well, you can't...
Liz Truss,
well,
Brexit...
it goes on ad infinitum. But what happens is you don't really notice it. If you take that 7% figure that I mentioned with food, you're not going to notice that when food prices are going up anyway, but it still means you're paying more.
OK, and as I said, a comet may strike the Earth and the Labour Party will probably blame Brexit. So, Jacob, up next...
Indeed, what am I going to talk about? Well, it would be, were she still alive, Margaret Thatcher's 100th birthday. So I'm going to be talking to John Redwood about that, because obviously he worked very, very closely with her. So it's a celebration of this great anniversary. And then we're going to discuss all sorts of other things. The wealth tax, so we're going to be hammered by Labour, potentially, in the budget. Digital gender ID, these ID cards they're bringing in, you can make up your sex. So we could say we're rabbits or whatever we feel like. That's coming up, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about sumo wrestling. And I've got a wonderful picture made by AI of Stephen Pound and me as sumo wrestlers. I bet people can't wait to see that.
That really is an image to conjure up with. Before we go, we've got a quick 30 seconds. What do you think that Maggie Thatcher would make of Britain's place on the world stage today with this peace deal?
I think she would be very disappointed that Labour is claiming some credit for it when its recognition of Palestine was unhelpful. And she would not have done that. She would have stuck closely to the US. And it's the US, it's Donald Trump who has done this. It isn't this Labour government who've actually been on the wrong side of history.
OK, thank you very much. So Jacob Rees-Mogg, State of the Nation is up next. Thanks, Nigel Nelson. As ever, see you Wednesday for another huge argument. I'll be back tomorrow 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. State of the Nation is up next. Don't go anywhere.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather outlook from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. It's been a largely dry day. Some places started with a bit of drizzle, but the largely dry weather will continue for the next few days, as will the fairly cloudy skies, because this chunky area of high pressure is sitting right over us, and it means the weather's not really shifting too far. There's quite a lot of cloud trapped under that area of high pressure. Thick enough for some drizzle here and there to continue, particularly over the Midlands, parts of eastern England, but otherwise it's a dry night. West Wales, parts of Scotland, especially again in the west, should keep some clear skies. And where skies do stay clear for longest, well, temperatures will dip well down into single figures. And as well as that, could be some mist and fog around, forming where we've got those clear skies, at least initially, through parts of Scotland. Still the cloud thick enough for some drizzly showers over Lincolnshire, down across East Anglia and in towards Kent. As I said, further west, some breaks in the clouds, some sunny spells for West Wales. And a bit like today, much of Scotland should see some sunshine during Tuesday. Could be a bit foggy to start with, and parts of the northeast, particularly close to the coast, may stay a little grey throughout. It may take a while for the mist and fog to clear, but it should be disappearing through the morning to reveal some sunny spells through central, western Scotland. Wales and southwest England, some breaks in the cloud likely here, but it's going to stay fairly grey, I suspect, over the Midlands and much of eastern England, and still at times just a bit of drizzle falling out of that thick cloud. Temperature-wise, well, about average for the time of year, maybe only 11 or 12 across parts of Scotland, but some sunshine does make a big difference to the feel of the day. Spot the difference for Wednesday. There's not a lot of it, maybe a few more showers coming in across the Northern Isles, still a bit of a breeze across Kent and Norfolk and Suffolk with the odd little bit of drizzly rain, but most places just dry and cloudy, and that is likely to continue for the rest of the working week. If anything, just turning a shade chillier.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of